cloud. And share screen. I'm looking for the right app. There it is. All right. Welcome everyone to the October 14th iteration of the MicroProfile Steering Committee call. So this is the Q3 call that we had to reschedule for today, and it looks like we do have a quorum. For this call, I will be taking the notes. This meeting is being recorded and will be posted eventually to YouTube. So thanks everyone for joining. Again, sorry for being late and joining the wrong call. So I need to do some attendance here. Let's see, for Atlanta Jug, we have, sorry, I'm just going to call out if someone could just say a name.
Vincent Myers.
Vincent is here. Okay. Because it I don't have the participant panel open. Community, Emerson.
Present.
Okay, Fujitsu. Okay, for IBM, I'm here. Is Emily, are you on the call?
Yes, she is.
She is.
Yes,
Okay.
I am. Just trying to mute
All right,
button.
thanks. iJug. Microsoft. Dimitri, I know I did see your name.
I'm here.
Yes, thank you very much for joining. And Ed also gave us a heads up you won't be able to attend. Pyera.
Yes, we are here.
Awesome. Primeton. Red Hat.
Yeah, Philip's, yeah.
Hey, Philip. And I heard Amelia. Anyone from the Eclipse Foundation?
And David is here as well.
David's here. Awesome.
I'm here from Red Hat, Ricardo.
Sorry, who was that from? Who else from Red Hat?
Ricardo.
Oh, Ricardo.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone from the Eclipse Foundation? Okay, and any community members? Okay,
please,
we have.
can you please add Luis to the Payara?
Sorry, who was that?
Luis, yes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we do have quorum today. Thank you everyone for joining. I haven't rearranged my windows yet since I don't like the way Zoom does things. So again, I'm not looking at who's on the call and everything yet. We haven't had any ballots since the last call. So there's like 3 or 4 topics that we won't have time, my guess is, to cover all of them. The first is we've got $8,000 of marketing to spend, and we have an idea on how to spend some of that. Of course, MicroProfile future discussion, futures, the program plan, and that ties into just overall annual planning. In fact, I'm going to do this. Move this under as a bullet under here. So I did prepare some. I had to reboot my computer, so I lost some tabs I pre-populated. So first, I do want to briefly cover the budget. Well, actually, no. Sorry about that. The financial planning cycle for the Eclipse Foundation, basically, we should have draft marketing and program plans basically like right now, right this week. And by late, have candidate program plans. And then it goes into voting and, right, they can conduct their actual financial planning. What makes this difficult is the entire, MicroProfile futures and Jakarta discussion, right? We could, or we should continue this, I guess, planning for next calendar year. I think for 2 reasons. One, just in case. And 2, I think even if we were to create verbiage and vote on it and actually execute on it, it would float into next year anyway, to do it. So that's where it's a little bit confusing to me. And a question I have to ask the Eclipse Foundation is if we were to pay our 2026 working group fees and we disbanded, let's say Q1, is there a prorating? Do we get a refund, right, on some basis? I know when you join a working group mid-year, right, it's prorated, but is the reverse true? So I have to ask that question of the Eclipse Foundation.
John, I will insert myself here and say that 95% of the answer is going to be a no. They likely will use it for marketing initiatives for the Eclipse Foundation. We could stipulate that we want this to be allocated to the Jakarta EE working group. That could be one of the concessions that can be added to when we work on the planning for 2026, because if added to the planning and they accept it, then it's done. So instead, I think we should insert it into the planning without asking. They will review it, and if they have a problem with it, they will talk with us about it. So
sorry, insert what explicitly?
Insert something that says in the first page or second page, whatever we do, that should the MicroProfile working group disappeared in 2026, that money that is left, whatever is left, should be allocated to the Jakarta EE, because we are going to the Jakarta. If the project goes to Jakarta, that makes sense.
Okay, that's actually pretty interesting. But okay, so we'll do this. Plan for 2026 regardless, just in case. And if we do move to Jakarta, then it will likely, what's the word? Continue into 2026 to execute.
Carry on. You can say it can be carry on to Jakarta. Carry on is a great word, financially speaking, for such a thing.
Will working group 2026 working group. Sorry.
And if anyone
carry over, carry over.
The carryover. Okay, I don't want to dig too much into this just because of the number of topics that we have, but carrying over, when we pay our fees, we pay them both at the same time, right? So what does carryover mean if we've already paid as working group members of both working groups, both fees, right? Does it carry over into 2027 then? If we overpaid in 2026, it doesn't work that way.
So I think it's maybe it's just ask Eclipse Foundation first, and then if they say no, and then we can work out what to do.
Okay.
You know what I would say, because we would have about $10,000 or $8,000 in the marketing. 10,000, I would say just buy as many t-shirts with the new members, distribute it to every member, because this will be the legacy MicroProfile t-shirts, and just move forward. But that will be in the worst case where money cannot be carried to 2026. To 2027, definitely that is going to be a no. I already know it, because the Eclipse Foundation does not carry over money from projects. They might do it. Yeah, they do not. So that will be, we have heard this before. So, but they will carry over for their operational costs for the Eclipse Foundation, because that is what the CPA will ask.
Yeah.
But
So,
project, what?
just if you guys want a better word, carryover is, you could use reallocate.
Correct.
So if we do merge, would the 2026 fees reallocate to Jakarta?
Yeah.
So I'll ask this. I'll probably ask this on the steering committee email alias.
Yeah.
That's
I think before we settle on this, I would I think our first choice will get the refund. Or alternatively, I don't know whether Eclipse we can provide two options. One is we pay the annual fee. Two is we pay half a year. So next year we pay till June. If things are still ongoing, and then we can pay the second half. Is that option? So we can ask all these questions.
Emily, that
Okay.
is problematic.
Yeah, again, I don't want to dig too detailed into this. I know, obviously, when it comes to money, it's important. But I do want to cover the budget, because it's like we got to spend the money, right? That we already have. And I want to spend at least half the call just talking about the futures again. So if it's okay, I'd like to continue this discussion. So I'm going to post it to the steering committee alias, which we all should be subscribed to. Hopefully, Lewis and Philip, that you've been added to the steering committee email alias. I can verify with Sharon, and then we can have the conversation there with all of these options and just flow through in the discussion. Okay.
I think what you mean is Ricardo, not Luis.
Oh, thank you. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes.
No worries.
My bad. As I try to multitask, it's never a good idea. Yes. Okay. I'm going to kind of scoot up to the existing $8,000 that we have available. Emily has gotten a quote from Tarun for 3 new chapters, or is it 2 new chapters and 3 updates, or 3 new chapters and 2 updates?
Three
Sorry.
chapters, 3 new chapters, 2 updates.
Right. So, basically the cost for that would be $3,500, right?
Yeah.
It was the telemetry. What were the other 2?
Open
Emily?
API and telemetry. This is the update. And for the brand new ones is GraphQL, reactive messaging, and the telemetry.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's the current quote that we would need to spend against the 8,000 if we were to move forward.
Emily, question on that, because I haven't seen the email on that in the community. What application will Tarun use for these updates?
I think existing application is example is on Liberty. The spec is on the spec.
Okay, so it will be Liberty implementation. Is that something that we will decide right now? Do we have the time?
I don't think we have the time.
I don't think so. So
Can we start a thread in the working group? And then just ask, and then we can, just because we haven't seen what will he do. And another option that I would throw out there is just printing the 8,000 on t-shirts. We can do both. We can do the tutorial and the rest on t-shirts that will be shipped to members.
I would prefer the work.
But it doesn't use all the budget. Only
That's what prefer means. So that would go first, and then the remainder could go to shirts.
yeah, that's
No,
yeah. What's my preference as well. Update the tutorial to the latest greatest, and then the rest will go to the shirt.
Yeah, I actually think his quote is reasonable.
Mhm.
Having gone through the pain of writing a book myself, it's like, okay, that to me that feels pretty reasonable. So, do we have kind of does anyone here not like the idea of spending 3,500 to update the tutorial to 7.1?
I have a quick question. Not related to not liking the idea. It's more around, do we have any idea of what the engagement has been around the tutorials that we produced so far?
That would probably be best answered, and that's an excellent question, by, well, I'm guessing Ryan. Part of the problem is it took us a while. The way it's situated right now is we just added it, so it just finished, right?
Okay.
Very recently, so we don't have a lot of data.
Right.
It's right now it's just a link in the MicroProfile.io website. And the idea is to actually, so that's step one. Let's get it up there quickly. Step two is to more embed it in the MicroProfile.io website, right?
Yeah. So we need to enable that.
Are there any plans to do any outreach around the tutorial?
Do you
I mean,
teaching?
so sorry, I haven't been on any of the marketing calls. I mean, this is probably something that's might be better in that forum, but you know, it's one thing to have amazing tutorials. It's another thing to get people to see them.
I thought it was actually off the top. Do you remember where the link is? I thought maybe it's still.
It's not, I do.
So this is like, I guess this kind of like is making my point.
Yeah.
If we can't find them.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Vince, John is right. There is a ticket and the tutorial needs to be added into the website.
Yeah.
And that will help us track what's happening, but the ticket has not been worked on because we took a vacation, and now it's been very soft September, and I fell through the cracks. So on next marketing call, MicroProfiles need to prioritize that. I am going to write in the tickets actually today and say, Ryan, this is a priority one for MicroProfile, so that we can just put it out there. It doesn't need to be perfect. I know he has ideas on what to do.
Yeah, I thought the link was added. I know
we could put her on the front page somewhere, like,
Correct.
so you don't even have to scroll to see it, just like right on the front page, and try to get some traction there.
So
well, again, I love the idea of updating it. It's more, I think about, you know, as a content guy, I always think about, I've gotten this good content, but how do I get people to see it? So clearly there's various strategies to do that. Again, this is probably better addressed in the marketing calls. But you know, I think there's other ways to get eyes on this than just having it on the website.
That's a good shout out. If you got any suggestions, throw them onto the. You don't necessarily have to attend the marketing calls. If you just throw them on the mailing list,
I should start attending the marketing calls.
You know, Vince, don't feel bad. Last one I attended was we were on holiday. It was Labor Day, and only Ryan attended. And I said to him, "Let's work on this ticket. This is a priority one." But I have not been able to attend anything else. So you see, I am just remembering this. John, my bad as well.
No problem. No, like I said, I thought the link was posted under resources, which is still hidden, right? But
No. It needs to be in the main page and under resources, 2 pages.
Yeah, like I said, actually it will be embedded in the website as a step 2. That was always the plan.
Yeah, it should have a bigger button here, similar to now available, and should be there all the time. MicroProfile tutorial. You won't miss it.
So. Okay, it sounds generally like people like the idea of updating it, and we do have a priority item then to actually get it published. So,
but let's go back to the tutorial. I think it's +1 that everyone wishes to spend half of the money into Room. He's trusted, he has done the first tutorial. And then my other suggestion will be to buy swag, because it's likely the last time we will have the budget for it. But if anyone else has better ideas, because there is another, what is 8,000? Emily, how much?
Is 3.5K for the tutorial. So that will pass 4.5.
Okay, so that is a +1, John, on tutorial. We can already set to Room. Yes, and the Eclipse Foundation will have to pay for it. And then what do we do with the other 5? I think for the other one, we can just start a working group thread, and that will be +1 and swag.
Okay.
Do we need any stickers? I
Emerson,
think it would be nice to have some stickers as well.
but not the big ones. It needs to be the little ones.
Oh,
Emerson
yeah,
has 600.
more stickers.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Okay.
can talk about in the marketing pool when we execute it to see how many t-shirts, how many stickers. and
Yeah,
such.
so it sounds like in the next marketing call, what we'll do is I mean, this has to be the top. This and the tutorial publishing have to be the top two topics.
Yeah.
And we can come up with a proposal for how to spend the rest of the marketing budget before the end of the calendar year, and then we can post it to the working group alias or the Google group, probably the working group alias because again it's money. So we also have one more steering committee call that we have to have before the end of the calendar year, right? According to the charter, once a quarter. So hopefully before that, which would probably be early December, we will actually have already decided this. But if not, we could also decide it on that call. That's a last ditch, I think, opportunity.
Do we have a deadline to spend the money?
End of the calendar year.
December
Oh.
31st.
Okay, 21st this, okay, this,
But
21st.
we can submit an order and it can be executed the following year. The money needs to be allocated
Yes.
by December 31st. It doesn't mean that it needs to be used. It's just allocation. That is a better wording.
Yeah.
I was taking a photo of everyone, by the way.
What else was going to bring up on that? We also shut down. What is it, after the first week of December until like the second week of January for the Christmas holidays?
Second week, I think
So-
we're going on the 19th.
Yeah, maybe it's the second week.
Yeah,
So just,
19th to the
So the
4th.
steering committee call would have to be before then as kind of a last ditch effort to vote on this, but I think we can have a proposal available after the next marketing call.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Definitely, let's write the MicroProfile holiday vacation, December 19th to January 4th.
Yeah,
And thank you so much, John, for doing this again, to gathering us to get in the call, and to those everyone joining.
We are
So
gathered here today.
I know.
Sorry. Okay. So let's have the conversation in the Google group, sorry, in the working group alias, both about the marketing plans and the other action I've got is around planning, right? How to plan for next calendar year when it comes to the budget and what our options are. So those are kind of the two AIs. I can do. I'll do this topic around annual planning. Sorry, do we want to have the conversation in the working group in parallel around the budget, in parallel, or wait until after the next marketing call
We
to
should
have a
start
proposal to
thread.
discuss?
John, we should start the thread. We work as economists. We shouldn't just wait to
all right.
10. It
Okay,
should,
so
everyone should be.
who wants to start that thread?
Yeah. Who is the volunteer?
Thanks, Amelia.
No, no, like, hold on. I'm traveling. I can't own this, but let me throw Emerson, our community rep.
Nah,
Emerson.
I'll post both. I have no problem posting both.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll do that. Okay, MicroProfile futures. This is because I wanted to reserve like half the call to this. I think where we're at is a bit of a stalled state. We took off for summer vacation, and this never really kicked off, and it's pushing us toward the end of the calendar year planning, right? So I think where we're at still is the namespace is an issue, and Emily, I'll ask you to kind of chat about that in a second. Your proposal, it's in the context of Jakarta, right? So she posted to the Jakarta working group a namespace proposal, and we'll get into that in just a second.
And also, I CC'd to MicroProfile Google group as well.
Okay, all right, thank you. The other questions are, there's other questions around, and Emily and I kind of in prep for this call discussed this yesterday. It's like, if we move MicroProfile over, there's only a few specs. Like a lot of the specs folks want to integrate into existing specs, right? JWT and security, REST client and REST, right, and so on. And it's like, what's left? And there's only a few left. Health, Open API, and telemetry maybe.
Telemetry config.
Yeah, and the reactive ones. But those are standalone. Is that enough to actually create another profile? And if not, what do we do with them? I actually think that is a discussion that we don't have to have ahead of time. I would prefer that we have all this figured out ahead of time, but I don't think it's like mandatory, for lack of a better word, right? To have that discussion. But it does beg the question, right, about what it would look like as an end result. So that was one of the questions I had. But the big one is the namespace proposal, which is actually getting a decent amount of traction. And
and John, may I just add? I understand that IBM and Red Hat raised the namespace issue as their blocker for their votes, but three of us have also voiced a blocker for our votes. Maybe that could be just listed at least.
Okay, so let's under namespace, sorry, changing namespace blockers, Red Hat, IBM. I think Vincent, you had voiced.
Yeah, we had voiced it that we would want EE4J removed from the charter of.
Right.
That's a different matter though.
Yeah.
Oh,
right.
You want to
yeah.
read a different matter? Oh, I see. Okay.
Right. We listed that as something that would change our -1 votes on a merge to a +1 vote. So it's identical in impact to the merge as the namespace. Atlanta and Emerson as well, three of us.
So what's your vote
I'm sorry,
for
the third one, Tommy Trimbe, Emerson.
At a jug, Atlanta jug.
Vincent, okay.
So with this charter move, for if it fold if it remove EEG4J from Jakarta charter, what's your option? What's your opinion for the namespace?
Well, I would prefer to see the namespace eventually updated. That would be certainly, our preference. I understand it's not consistent with what you guys would like, but I respect that perspective.
Okay, this is no blocker for you then for namespace, retaining namespace. So your bigger concern is remove E4J to Jakarta charter, right? From Jakarta charter, right?
Correct.
Okay. So are you speaking for AJAG and what about
Vince is here. You can say what you feel, Vince.
for namespace?
Oh wait, did you ask me for namespace or what?
Oh, I'm asking Vince what his opinion on namespace. I think David, you said that's no blocker for you.
Yeah, we would prefer the Jakarta namespace eventually, just for consistency purposes.
So what about you, Vince?
Consistency is good.
So is that a real blocker for you for the namespace? If we're returning the namespace, are you against the IBM's proposal?
Yeah.
Okay, what about you?
Sorry, I'm trying to parse if that's a -1 or a +1 on changing the namespace. So if the namespace were to change into the Jakarta namespace, after moving. Is that, Vincent, is that okay with you? Is that a +1 or is that a
It's a
-1?
plus. Yeah, it's a +1.
It's a +1. Okay. Let's see. I'm going to change this. Using Jakarta namespace, because I don't like the way this is written.
But anyway,
Using,
the problem is that this is also moot point. We can't really, it's in here discuss what Jakarta do is not something MicroProfile has a powerful. But anyway, so that's why it's I said the vote in the Jakarta side.
oops, sorry. Keeping namespace, MicroProfile, using Jakarta namespace. Dimitri, are you guys still using the Jakarta namespace preference?
I think for consistency reasons, it would be great to use Jakarta namespace, but I think that we should consider these two bullets separately, right? So we would like MicroProfile to merge Jakarta. Let's put it this way. We think that that's a primary goal to achieve, and namespace is a secondary goal, and we can talk about that when the MicroProfile actually moved to Jakarta.
Right. Sorry, somebody added something to the chat. Okay.
Technically, we don't want to consider namespace a blocker for moving MicroProfile to Jakarta.
So if we look at, right, there's some discussions going on in, this is a good thread. So folks that are also Jakarta working group members should definitely take a look at this thread. Right, it's getting some, decent discussion. I'm trying to figure out how to phrase this without sounding, I don't know, condescending is the word, or, and it, too big for my britches or whatever. The problem that IBM and Red Hat have is the install base size. It was pretty painful for our customers to do this once, right? And doing it a second time could affect the install base, right? It's like to the point of, does IBM focus more on the upstream projects and moving those forward under the current namespace, right? And let others manage the new namespace. It's a really big problem. I think, there, obviously everyone else has customers, and probably a pretty good number of customers. But I think, especially the combined JBoss / Liberty WebSphere customer base, I think it's an especially tough problem for us. That maybe some of the others don't feel at the same scale. Again, maybe it's not the fairest of comments, and I'm trying to be sensitive in how I phrase it, but it's a very tough problem for us to deal with. That's the primary reason why we're concerned about it, right? I mean, in a perfect world, coming in new or with a low number, a low repercussion for our customers, yeah, of course it sounds nice. But the situation that we're in is, it would we would be asking our customers to make a big, I don't want to use the word sacrifice, but we're creating a lot of work for them that's just busy work,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
So
no,
just to add on to that, or just to add a question onto that, do you imagine, so do you imagine, so this is a two-part question. Let me try to get both parts out quickly. Do you imagine there is a potential route where the existing namespace could be supported while there is eventually Jakarta versions of the same classes available? Effectively, we would have to implement both, but you know, so that both could live simultaneously in the same implementation, such that you could use, you know, the old namespaces for an extended period of time, but maybe new things happen under the Jakarta namespace. And then the reason I mention that specifically is because a lot of the merging work that people probably would imagine doing, specifically for JWT, there is already a JWT interface and security. I mean, like they talked about, you know, not wanting, you know, I don't understand that conversation came up as in like, what do you mean we can't have JWT support? But there already is JWT support in Jakarta security. So it is already the situation where there's effectively two APIs for really the same thing. And to take any minor remaining features from MicroProfile JWT and moving them over to the Jakarta security would probably result in new code anyway. And so is there a potential where we could keep the org Eclipse MicroProfile namespace, but it just over time evolves into the Jakarta namespace naturally?
So David, there's one of the email is exactly cover that scenario. So JWT is one of the example. The other example, REST client. If MicroProfile JWT authentication merged into Jakarta security, and it's okay to in the Jakarta security is use the Jakarta namespace. And then in this case, the MicroProfile JWT will be deprecated. So the MicroProfile context propagation has done this already. So the spec was deprecated, and then the new APIs end up in the Jakarta concurrency. So I think this is a good example for that.
So that sounds like a yes then.
Yes. So in this case, there's no point to change the Jakarta JWT, change the MicroProfile JWT, simply that's the spec deprecated.
So just to add something or a couple of things, right? And that's the thing that we've been discussing and we're trying to evolve in the sense that we know that specifications like Jakarta REST and REST client. I mean, why didn't REST client end up in Jakarta REST, right? It was at the time, as you know, there was JavaX REST or JAX REST, and we couldn't change that. So obviously it went to MicroProfile. But I'm guessing that at some point people want to merge MicroProfile REST client with Jakarta REST, right? So do you think it makes any sense to make a namespace change now from Jakarta REST client, or sorry, MicroProfile REST client to Jakarta, and then, I don't know, maybe in a couple of years later, we figure out, okay, now we have to merge these into Jakarta REST. So now you have to go to a second namespace change, right? I don't think that's that much interesting. I think it will be more convenient for things to move as is, and then after Jakarta figures out what each spec of MicroProfile is going to end up with, then we can decide if the namespace is going to change spec by spec, right? So some specs may be deprecated. So are you going to move those as well to Jakarta if they are deprecated? Probably not. It's just going to waste time, right? If things are going to get merged into other Jakarta specs, then might as well just do the actual work with the correct namespace with the correct spec from the get-go instead of going for two changes. And third, I mean, if a spec is not going to be merged anyway, then of course, yeah, you can change the namespace to be consistent, right? But I don't think it's interesting to go through two namespace changes if in the end you're gonna have to merge those into Jakarta. A second thing which I want to also address, one of David's comments was about to have like a dual dual names in distributions, right? So also remember that when you have dual distributions, that's also going to increase memory usage, startup time, which is something that we don't really like.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of our APIs aren't that big.
Still, when it's not about the APIs, right? Because then you're gonna have to look implementation side, and basically if you have two APIs at the same time, you don't know which one the customer is using. Maybe you even using both, right? So you're gonna have to load both implementations. And I mean, when you're dealing things in native image, loading a bunch of classes can really increase a couple of milliseconds on your startup time, which is not ideal.
Right. I mean, but just so I agree. Am I correct in understanding that you guys do a lot of compile time decision making in Quarkus? For example, if they don't use the other namespace, you wouldn't be creating code that adds that to the resulting binary, right?
For those, I mean, we don't have such solutions right now, right? Because we never had that issue, but that's something we will have to work on.
Okay, I had understood that like if people don't use certain features, you don't add that into the resulting binary.
Yes and no, right? Because there are some features that you only know if the user is going to use them at runtime,
Okay,
right? As an example, right? Think about retrieving a configuration that's only available at runtime, right? So you cannot just turn configuration off because you don't know if the user is going to call a configuration API at runtime that gives you a value that's only available at runtime.
sure. I mean, but you could. I mean, so first of all, we don't need to solution this, and I was just really asking a question out of curiosity. Um, so I don't understand the internals.
No, sure. We can discuss technical details. I'm just saying that sometimes the some of our goals or some of our solutions always add more stuff, right? But usually when you add more stuff, you're also paying a price. Most of the cases we didn't care about that. Maybe in like 15, 20 years, we didn't care about adding all of this stuff, but now we care, right?
I think overall we're getting close, right? I mean, this is the vibe I'm getting just, over recently in this call is I think we're getting close. Um, it's just this, you know, there's what would be nice for the platform going forward versus what our customers have in place already, right? Which, and those are the two things I think that are kind of loggerheads, or kind of coming up against each other. Um, and I'm not quite sure like how to get around it. So the idea of having dual namespaces, you know, that's is that something that someone can declare at install time, right? So we don't have to pay this versus trying to figure it out at runtime, right? Um,
Or like
are there
one or the other, you know what I mean? If that's something that could be declared at install time, like which set you want or something like that,
Yeah, are you more
Just throwing
concerned
out
about
ideas, but
it's more product work, right?
yeah,
That people would have to do and maintain. So it's not a zero cost, especially on the maintenance side. Um, but it does kind of provide a means to move forward. And I'm not sure, the point about can we fix it over time? As soon as quote unquote fix it, you break something. Unless an interesting discussion that came up in that thread in the Jakarta working group, platform dev. I would definitely recommend you take a look. It's linked in the meeting minutes. Someone. It's funny because it's like three people, and like I thought of this right away too, and other people have. It's like, well, could you do namespace aliasing at the JDK level? Right. Long term, right, that would take years to probably figure out, to be honest. Just
Yeah.
based on history,
Yeah.
right? On how long. But it is an interesting idea. And if it can be solved at the JK level, it solves our problem.
maybe 5 years down the road.
Yeah, but
Yeah, but
let me
I
just
doubt
rewind just a minute and just ask a general question to the audience. So, for the members that want to move with the Jakarta namespace, do you see a problem in moving MicroProfile and change all the namespace right now, and then eventually having to move it again for certain specs? Or are you comfortable if it moves as is, and then move the namespace as required when things get integrated in their target specs? Oh, that's an interesting question. If MicroProfile moved to Jakarta and namespace is changed in one batch without MicroProfile specs to be changed. So existing specs are taken, moved to Jakarta, namespace is changed. This migration is quite trivial because it only changes technically the package names, nothing else, right? This is easy replace in your IDE, right? And this is the only backwards incompatible change in this only time. If we agree that we will eventually change the namespace, this is good. Changing namespace is good for consistency, but we will have backwards incompatible changes, X number of releases. So this release we won't have, but next one spec changes, release after that another one. So it needs to be done several times. And each time it's more complicated because API are changing too. What is easier for customers, to change it once with a simple replace, or every single time make changes with namespaces together with some API changes? I think number one is, in your case, what you're saying is we change it like in a single go, and then apparently, from what I'm hearing, is that we're not going to touch it again, right? But what about REST client? So will REST client will leave on its own and will never get merged back into Jakarta REST? No, I guess it will be, right? But you make a change, and after that, you are making changes within that namespace, right? There will be backwards incompatible changes, correct? But there will be backwards incompatible changes within one namespace, not only the change plus the namespace change, you know?
So I will insert myself here. This is nothing new to us. Jakarta Java EE moved into the Eclipse Foundation, and it was a donation. And that infra update took a long time, like what, 2 years? But it was done.
Significantly a lot still taking place, but yeah.
Yes, but it took like the massive one, Java EE8, right? That was like the big one to transfer Java EE. We have done this already.
Yeah.
So should MicroProfile move to Jakarta, and the name change happens, this can be done.
I think there was a more pragmatic question that Roberto's asking, so I'd like to answer Roberto's question. And so, you know, so it's a great question, and I don't think there's an easy answer to it. And I do think it does sort of, you know, like if we were talking about config only, I would say the best thing would be just to change the namespace because it's a good API and it's unlikely to be deprecated at any point in the future. Then if we're talking about JWT, it's a flip side of it. It's very likely to be deprecated, and it would make less sense to, you know, kind of pollute the Jakarta namespace with something that we know is going to be immediately deprecated. So I don't have an easy answer. I don't have a completely one way or the other answer for you. And it does seem to be subjective to the spec. And so therefore I don't know exactly what the proper recommendation is. You know, it may be a mix of both if that's something we'd be willing to entertain. you know,
Oh, that's the
I
point,
see
right?
the point. I see the point.
I think, let me clarify one thing. I think we are moving as it is. I do not recommend to do any namespace change, as Dimitri has said, one release change the namespace. So my proposal means there's a no namespace change. However, if the MicroProfile JWT merged into Jakarta security, obviously the new APIs into the Jakarta security, that would be using Jakarta namespace. If MicroProfile for tolerance, for example, keep on doing development, that won't change the namespace. You keep on using the existing namespace. So it's a Dimitri described in one release change to be a Jakarta. It won't happen. The only happen the Jakarta namespace change is one spec is merged into another spec. For example, REST client and etc.
Right. But to be clear, when you say won't happen, you're describing a preference, not a fact.
I'm describing if the MicroProfile spec stays on its own, keeps is a current state, no is not merging into any Jakarta specs, it will keep MicroProfile namespace.
In your preference. Right. So we're discussing on what to do with this entirely, right? And all preferences are on the table. So it's okay to say it won't, but that's your preference. It's not decided that will be happening.
That's true. It's right now it is because nobody can control in 50 years later what will happen, right?
Well, or right now, right? Even so, we haven't actually even decided right now. So, again, it's a valid preference to have, but I just wanted to make sure it's clear to everybody that's a preference, not a fact.
Yes, nothing happened as yet. So the other things Amelia said is JavaX to Jakarta change happen again, and then we could do the same thing again. Technically, yes, we can do the same thing, but I think we will drive more customers away from Jakarta MicroProfile towards Spring because it fed up with the migration namespace again and again. Actually, recently at Jackson London, one person particularly came to me and said, that's a huge headache for them to do the JavaX to Jakarta change. Never do the namespace change again when I talk about Jakarta to MicroProfile merge. No, MicroProfile to Jakarta merge. So this is from our point, the technical developer point of view, yes, we can do the things. It's no technical difficulties. However, for customers, they have a lot of applications, have to go through this pain. The changing is a small deal. The bigger deal is doing all sorts of different tests. So especially the mission critical applications, they do long running tests and going through for days and weeks. And who will spend the money? So they have paid the money for no business benefit whatsoever.
Well, Emily, playing the advocate, many of us have customers that play support, enterprise support, to do migrations. They migrate to different Java, like for example, we have Java 25, right? And they are using different implementations and things like this. So there's things we cannot discuss, but this happens in small, medium, middle, and large corporations do the migrations and choose to use the technologies. And they are, I have to say, they are comfortable with Java EE changing into Jakarta EE, but the change happens slowly, and they choose.
I just want to maybe cut that short because both perspectives are completely valid, and there is no one customer that fits every profile. That there isn't one kind of customer. So The kind of people that Emily described definitely exist, and the cost that they have to incur definitely exists. And sometimes these people are government, and getting that money requires basically Congress to allocate them funding. You know what I mean? So all the scenarios do exist, and I think we're not going to get anywhere by arguing one kind of customer is more important than the other.
Can I just say something?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Again, this is just perspective, right? I mean, I hear what everyone's saying about customers, and look, I was a sales guy for a long time in another life, but I think the important decision that we have to make is a namespace change an important strategic move for MicroProfile? And my perspective is that probably takes precedence over whether customers like it or not.
I am with you, Vince.
I think
So I'll give a different perspective as well, right? So we're trying to compare the JavaX Jakarta to this change, but I think they are fundamentally different, right? Because the JavaX Jakarta namespace was forced on us because Oracle didn't give us rights to keep using JavaX, right? So it was an easy thing to go to customer and say, hey, we really cannot use this because of legal reasons, so we have to do this, right? Now we don't have a legal reason to do it, right? So it's harder to say to customers, why are we going to change the namespace? Because there is no technical reason or there is no legal reason to change it.
Yeah, you said well, Roberto. The other things quickly are, so at the end of the day, we want to make a Jakarta MicroProfile working together successfully to win customers back. I do not think this namespace change will keep the current existing customer happy or will attract more customers here is because, oh, MicroProfile now using Jakarta namespace, I'm going to come to use it. I don't think we'll get more marketing shares for the namespace.
I do know that I have heard people, I have heard that scenario where people don't specifically use the MicroProfile stuff because they don't think it had as much legs as the Jakarta stuff. So I do know people who would use it more if it were to shift over to the Jakarta namespace.
But I disagree.
But that's not. I wouldn't say it's a majority. Just saying, I have heard that scenario, which is why I say it's very difficult to just paint a picture of any existing customers. But then if we change the topic from existing users to future users, I think it's a different conversation. You know what I mean? If we just, and I don't think this decides anything, but I think it's a factor that we should consider, which is if we think about future users, what is easier for them? I think in that regard, it's probably an easy one namespace is easier for them. That doesn't necessarily mean that decides this, as I say, but I do think that if we think about future users, users who are adopting us next year and the years after that, definitely one namespace is easier for them, I would say very definitively, especially considering we do have APIs in the Org Eclipse package and we do have implementations in the Org Eclipse package, and there is the opportunity for people to get confused about what's standard and what's not. These are not deciding factors, but they are factors.
But I don't think the implementation package they care about is not surfaced out. Besides, nowadays, who will type the namespace? Is the IDE will sort out all the namespace. And if we change the namespace, now is previously automatically resolved. And now you have to pick which namespace you get. And then this is a problem for happening down the road. Or by the way, I think we are all
Out of
over
time.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're already 5 minutes over. And thanks
Yeah.
everyone. Yeah, I was going to bring it up shortly. Everyone's still on the call, and thank you very much for hanging on the call a little bit over. I don't know. I think we all we all know kind of where each other is at. It's just how do we solve the problem where maybe both can move forward, or at least MicroProfile for a while. I don't know. I'm gonna bounce this around inside of IBM and in the product teams, right? Is there a way that we can manage both in some ways? Because for us at IBM, it's a huge problem, right? According to public reports, right, going into the past, I haven't looked at recent like Gartner stuff, but it's like $1 billion business or whatever, right? And the market was $4 billion way back when. I don't know what it is now. So it's a big like problem.
Yeah.
It's a multi-billion. If you look at the market, it's a multi-billion-dollar problem.
Right.
So that's how I look at it.
Yeah, and I'll say that a lot of this, for as long as this industry's been around, every API has been recreated at least twice. And deprecated. The previous ones deprecated, and and the customer base has generally tended to accept that. And so, there may not be a quick solution that would make that market happy, but maybe just the standard old evolve and deprecate path could still work.
So that's something that I'll bring up. Is there a way that we can somehow have the old API hang around in a deprecated state with a newer namespace somehow evolving its way in? I don't.
It doesn't have to happen immediately. Like, for example, maybe we don't do anything for the very first release of things coming through, but as we find that we're eating away the current specifications by doing merges like the JWT merge and the REST client merge, that, maybe there's the opportunity for there to be a new version of config that has, say, 1 or 2 extra features and the other one's deprecated.
Right.
And we play it along the lines of, there was XML web services, then there was JAX WS, and then there was CMP, then there was JPA. Those are all pretty big API changes, but is there the opportunity for there to be something that supersedes them, that maybe has a feature or two to add that makes it feel less like we took something from you and more like, here's a new thing for you. It's even cooler than the old one. And then it becomes more of a sell rather than a negative.
All righty, we're over. I think it's a good way to end the call. We're going to have one more steering committee call before the end of the calendar year. I'll see if I can get it scheduled in for early December. And I think next week is a technical call. Maybe we can continue this in the technical call.
Yeah.
So,
John, we can
yeah.
actually say that it will be December 9th. Already you can I just checked, and that will be the next community call, the last one. And then the 16th will be the technical.
Yeah, I just wanted to, we could have discussion later. I just wanted to double check against conferences and Jakarta 1 and all that kind of stuff again.
All right.
Okay. All right. Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Everyone, it was so cute just to hear
Thanks,
voices.
everybody.
Bye,
Thanks,
folks.
everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Cheers.
Bye.